Obi-Wan Can Blow Me, Episode 1. Now, Kenobi is a show which has got everything. A 10-year-old Mary Sue who can teleport, Obi-Wan as a pathetic little manlet, and an ongoing mystery as to where somebody is hidden, the entertainment. We start with a prequels roundup to build up as much nostalgic emotion in the audience as possible, because believe me, by the end of the episode, you're gonna need it. After this shot, Kenobi thinks he's killed Anakin Skywalker, which would have been a blessing because if he had, he wouldn't have needed to appear in this show. 4 minutes into the episode, we start the actual episode. I don't think reminding people that all this leads to the Disney trilogy is doing them any favors. We start with some mushroom-headed kids fighting off invisible space ninjas. This female Jedi must be deaf because apparently she can't hear a massive war going on right on the other side of this door. But the door opens, and in come 2 stormtroopers. She's waving a lightsaber around for no reason. Like, it's not intentionally blocking anything, she's just making random movements. She kills him by stabbing under his armpit. No, I'm not joking, you can see it. And she takes out the other guy. It's only 2 stormtroopers, that's expected. A Jedi wouldn't die to 2 stormtroopers, come on. So she sees 2 stormtroopers through that door and thinks this is a great time to take a load of kids at them. We don't arm them with the 2 blasters that have just dropped on the floor, I'm not sure why. And behind her, you see a male Jedi also fighting 2 stormtroopers. I'm assuming those are the 2 stormtroopers that walked past her, but I'm not sure how they got on the other side of the Jedi. If they'd walked past him, you'd assume they'd be dead. Now, she doesn't go to help him because obviously he should be able to handle 2 of them on his own, right? No, the male stormtrooper immediately dies. He doesn't even take down one of them. I don't know how he became a Jedi, quite frankly. But obviously, through the power of fallopian tubes, she can do what the man can't and start deflecting blaster bolts straight back at him and everything. Handles them easily. As you'd expect, because he is, after all, just a man. Meanwhile, the Type B is now taking on 3 stormtroopers at the same time, getting fired at from all sides. Make that 4 stormtroopers at the same time. Not a problem. Look, the dude died straight away, but I think the message is clear that the Type B can not only raise and protect children far better, but also has far better powers when it comes to spatial awareness. Once again, more stormtroopers on both sides, deflecting from one way, spinning around, fighting the next. Another 2 stormtroopers taken down in 2 bolts. Not a problem at all. What's that? 2 more stormtroopers? Not gonna be an issue at all. That's 1 per tube. She can handle that. For some reason, there's lots of spinning around, waving a lightsaber that's nowhere near enemies. I'm not sure why. 2 swipes, another 2 down. If only that man had trained under her, we all could have been saved a lot of trouble. Turns out, though, 3 is a bit too many. You can only take 1 per tube at a time. The moment you get a 3rd blaster fire, you're just down. That's the rules. So like an episode of Stranger Things, they look at her and go, what should we do now? Run. And where do they decide to run? Oh yeah, straight into all of the enemies. That's gonna make a lot of sense. Now, I do have to say, this entire fight scene does look amazing, and it really reminds me of one of the trailers for Star Wars The Old Republic, which was a great trailer. Unfortunately, the rest of the episode doesn't live up to this introduction. So take a look at those lightsabers, because we're about to enter a whole world of misery and pain. Most of it's gonna be mine. The title screen says Obi-Wan Kenobi, but the show suggests that he has less talent than a 10-year-old girl. Oh yeah, and prepare for a green screen about every 3 seconds. Hey, say what you want about the Jawas and cloaks, but I think it's nice they could find a part for Tom Cruise to play. Even I can mimic this special effect by using a lamp and a cardboard cutout. But for some reason, it's really panicking Tom Cruise. So the ship lands, and what do we get? It's the 3 Stooges. Now, at a recent Star Wars panel, they said this.
If you're not reflecting the people you see in the real world in your fantasy worlds, there's a problem. Let's clap for diversity. That was, for me, the most exciting thing. As a kid, I got Lando. I think it's just really nice to be able to include the people I know and love in my life.
And I think we can all agree, at least in this first episode, her casting does have a genuine advantage. She can quite happily walk around in the desert sun without needing to wear a mushroom sun hat and look like a complete div. I think the front guy's just that pale because of the factor 1000 sun cream he's got on him to protect him from the sun. It's really interesting that the futuristic space armor just seems to be made out of rubber and plastic. Yes, the pair of you are incredibly intimidating, especially her expression, which seems to be a mixture of anger and constipation, mainly the latter. Now, like any good group of tourists, the first place these people go to is the local bar. You know what it's like? You spend hours traveling to a new location, only to spend 12 hours of it inside at a pub drinking anyway. The true British tourist experience. Brits are the only people that can travel to Portugal and then not see any of it. Although the small amount of it they do see is in double and spinning. Now, I don't know if this guy can act, but what I do know is he can't in this. He delivers all of his lines like this, and everything is monotone and delivered with absolutely zero emotion. which might have been the direction he was given to actually tell all of his lines in. But if it was a terrible decision, because this is a really long monologue and absolutely incredibly boring. He's basically like, Jedis have morals, and so they can't stop interfering. They basically hunt themselves. I'm like, I wish he'd hunt himself a bit faster, because quite frankly, I'm fed up of you talking. The key to hunting Jedi is patience. Quite frankly, mine for the show has already run out, and we're only at episode 1. Jedi cannot help what they are. Their compassion leaves a trail, as he says, walking over next to the big scorch marks on a wall. I hope you can physically realize the subtlety and nuance that we've got in the script. And this guy spent about half an hour describing the fact that he heard a rumor about a Jedi, and the Jedi helped him, and so he might still be there. This scene lasts minutes, and the only thing he needed to do is ask the guy, is there any Jedis nearby, mate? I do like this guy balling his fist as if he's going to take on 3 Sith with his bandaged hand. He's about as smart as he looks. If the Jedi was smart, he'd keep moving. But the Jedi code is like an itch. He has to scratch it. He has to be good. This entire scene is set up just to tell you that Kenobi is a really bad Jedi and humiliate him, but in an emotion that I think everyone in the audience can sympathize with. Strong Type B of power is very, very bored. She's had enough. So she grabs a knife and yeets it right at his face, only for it to be stopped. At this point, I'm kinda wishing she'd just thrown it at me. Unfortunately, the Jedi outs himself by stopping the knife. Now, Jedi are meant to help people, but you would expect some kind of minimum stupidity barrier that they'd have to reach. Now, for some reason, Strong Type B of power has to point him out, even though everyone can see him stopping the knife. Obviously, though, the 2 men in the room are too stupid to realize this, and so they have to have him literally pointed at. Now, the Jedi decides to run. I don't know why, because 3 Sith would be able to use the power to stop him, like Force Choke, you would assume, but nobody tries. Instead, the closest we get is Mushroom Man standing in his way and not even trying to grab him as he runs up to him. So he just starts skidding along the floor like friction doesn't exist, straight into the main character's lightsaber. Don't worry though, because he's not done yet, because the plot requires him not to be. The leader asks for him to be interrogated, but for some reason, Strong Type B of power just wants to slaughter him. I still don't know why, it's not explained. So she goes to strike him down, but she's stopped by the Force from the other guy. You know, he used the Force to stop a lightsaber, but couldn't use the Force to stop a Jedi. So he yeets her out the way, which clears the way for this guy to run. Nobody stops him with the Force, even though we've just stopped a lightsaber and yeeted a person. For some reason, we can't yeet this bloke. So he runs out and drops 2 bits of cloth in the way of 3 Sith. And they run up to it and go, oh, I can't go any further. He's completely outsmarted us by dropping 2 bits of cloth. Now, I was going to chase you, but if you've put this minor inconvenience in my way, I've clearly been outsmarted. And so they just start having a conversation in front of the bits of cloth about how, oh, I wish we'd got that guy, but unfortunately we just had to let him go. Now this scene is something I think we'll get a lot of. Her boss telling her that she needs to do something, and her just being an arse about it. It's like, you need to settle down and do your job. And she's like, I don't want to do my job. I wanted to get Kenobi. I'm obsessed with Kenobi. I'll get Kenobi all I want. He's just scraps. He's beneath me. And I can't help thinking that a Sith faced with that kind of attitude from an inferior would just cut them down where they stand. But unfortunately in this, no, I'm just going to tell you very nicely that you should stop doing that. He even says, you will forget this fixation with Kenobi or I will relieve you of your duties. Now you'd think Sith would do a bit more severe of a threat, but no, apparently he's just going to put her on leave and give her 2 weeks holiday while she calms down. I'm going to send you to your room and make you think about what you've done. And it has absolutely nothing to do with Disney's idea of who can and who can't punish what kind of person. So instead, we're just going to make the Sith appear like pansies, because Disney have put themselves into a corner where they can do nothing else. So finally realizing that the way around a dropped bit of cloth is to just walk around it, eventually she goes looking for the Jedi. Now this is like a desert meat mining operation, because for some reason on this planet, dead animals don't rot. As you can see, it's half buried in the desert sand, so it's been there for a long time, and has just been perfectly preserved and is still edible. I don't know why. Now, to me, those look like the kind of bricks you'd expect to be coming out of Mexico, but in this show, no, it's meat. I honestly have no idea why it takes this many people just to cut up some meat into blocks. Everyone's working really slowly because we might have to do another take of this scene, and so we don't want to actually cut anything. It's just a prop. But this is where we find out that Kenobi has been reduced to just doing a menial day job. You would have thought being a Jedi paid quite well, but apparently he's been reduced to this after just 10 years. So everyone's signing out and getting their money, and this guy realizes he's only been paid half. Nobody else before him complained at all, but apparently they all work under the agreement that slightly taller than everyone else homeless guy can pay him whatever he wants. So the guy's like, I have a family, and the guy pushes him. He's like, one more word, I'll take it all. It's like, can you get any more just mustache twirling villain? I hope you weren't expecting any subtlety or nuance, because what we've got here is a sledgehammer to the face. You see, Kenobi's a bad person because he could interfere and take down this guy easily, but he's not going to.
Is there something you want to say? No, I'm not going to say anything because I'm a sad little pathetic excuse for a human being. So I'm just going to look down, take my half pay and leave.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, everybody! I hope you weren't expecting a man, because the only thing you've been left with is a bitch. So Kenobi takes a ride home, and I'm not sure what's happened to the guy to his right, but there seems to be some extremely severe allergic reaction going on there. Kenobi looks over at him and is like, you're alright, mate? You're looking a bit worse for wear. So Kenobi comes over to collect his, I'm going to call it a horse for the rest of the episode. It's worth noting it hasn't been nicked during all the time he's been away, and off he heads into the desert to go home. And the music's like, ha 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 ha, to try and make it sound big and important and impressive, when literally nothing is happening. The little motion sensor tells him there's no one in his house, but it doesn't seem to be working, as we'll see later in the episode. So now we get this scene, and you have to tell me in the comments if you think I'm right about this. But they just CGI'd food, right? Look, I know this episode is a green screen every 3 seconds, but did we really need to CGI food? You could have just had him cooking in real life, but no! We had to make the food appear! Behold! The power of a poorly keyed green screen. I could recreate this same effect in my front room and it would look just like this. And by that I mean bad. Also like this. So Tom Cruise turns up and he wants to sell him some parts. To say that this entire scene is just put in to fill time would be an understatement. Literally nothing happens in it. He sells him this toy, and it turns out Tom Cruise stole from his ventilator and is trying to sell his own parts back to him, which Kenobi just lets him do? Yes, obviously, if you steal from me and then sell it back to me, I'm just going to pay you and not kick up a fuss about anything. Because I'm a cowardly little doormat and I won't even do anything to the guy who's half my size. Yes, in this TV series, Kenobi is nothing but a pathetic little manlet. It's also worth pointing out that this guy will steal from his own house and then sell it back to him. But no one nicked his horse when it was in town. But this entire scene seems to just be put there so that we know that they've found his old ship and stripped it for parts. I really don't know why that's important. We wasted 5 minutes just to find out that his ship has been turned into scrap. Like, seriously, who cares? Oh, and Tom Cruise tells him he smiles as well, you know, just to strip away any remaining scrap of self-respect that you might have thought he had. So he's asleep and having flashbacks to the fight with Anakin, even though 10 years has passed. Like, seriously, it's been 10 years, get over it. No, seriously, it's been 10 years, get over it. If anything, we've seen the life you're living, that's what you should really be miserable about. So we waste 30 seconds of him just watching him wake up. No, seriously, we're still watching him wake up. And then off he goes to be a peeping Tom. But it turns out he's just going to see if Luke's okay, which is great. Although he is supposed to protect him and only goes there periodically to go look at him, I don't know what happens if he gets into trouble during the other 23.5 hours a day that he's not there, but, you know, maybe the villains only attack at midday for the next 10 minutes, I'm not sure.
Oh, Luke's pod racing just like Anakin, his father. Oh, does it get you right in the nostalgia feels?
Because I don't care at all.
Oh no, he's just like his father. What if he takes like him and goes to the dark side?
That might carry some weight if we'd not seen the movies already, and spoiler, he doesn't. One of the problems with prequels is nothing carries any weight, because you already know the ending. Oh, when Kenobi gets into a fight, will he die? No, because he's got to turn up for the original trilogy. But for some reason, he waits till after dark to creepily leave this toy on his doorstep. Now, as he's riding through the dark, he's like, oh, I think someone's watching me. Turns out to be the Jedi, who has an IQ of a dung beetle.
Master, I thought I saw you in town.
Okay, fine. If you saw him in town, how on earth did you track him down to this specific location? I would love to know. Because at the moment, it just seems like the script is teleporting people into the locations that it needs them to be. And Kenobi's like, no, I don't know who you mean. There must be some mistake. So the guy just gets out his lightsaber and shows it to him. Like, I don't know who you mean. My name is Ben. Despite the fact that I look exactly the same as I have for years. I'm sure you can't recognize me. The Jedi's like, no, you don't know what I've been through. Please, help me. I don't know what you want him to do. He's being hunted as well. I mean, seriously, the best he can do is kind of tell you how he's kept off their radar, and then you just repeat that, which coincidentally is exactly what he does. He says, if you want my help, take this lightsaber, bury it out in the sand out there, and live a normal life ignoring the Jedi. Which is exactly what he's done, and he's surviving. So quite frankly, I don't know what the Jedi could possibly have wanted more. Because he's like, what about the people that need us? It's like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to help the people that need you, or do you want to die? Those are your choices. Pick one. And quite frankly, at this point, you're such a boring character, I don't really care which. And everyone's just like, we lost the fight. You just shut up now. Go away. Go over there and hide. Go over there and hide like I have, the cowardly little Obi-Wan. Note that he's actually here to protect Luke, not because they lost some big major war. He's not here to hide. He's here to guard over somebody. But apparently the show forgets that. But my favorite line is this from the Jedi.
What happened to you?
Disney bought Star Wars.
You were once a great Jedi.
Yeah, but then Disney bought Star Wars. But he leaves by telling him to go back to town and let it go, which would be sage advice, as that's how he survived, and so it does make sense. Unfortunately, the guy with the IQ of the dung beetle has the IQ of a dung beetle, and so he's not going to do that. There's a saying in MMOs where a dead DPS does no DPS, implying that you should actually relax a little bit, because if you're more cautious, you'll stay alive and therefore do more DPS overall. Whereas this Jedi is going to learn that if you want to do good, you should probably not get caught and get killed doing it.
Spoiler!
Now, for anyone that watched my Halo review, you will understand what I mean when I say we're about to get a Quan character. But for new people, Quan was a character in Halo who was an incredibly miserable cow, who was simultaneously miserable and angry and annoying to everyone, but they all loved her for it, and she was perfect at everything she did. And other people would always save her and help her and do things for her, but obviously she would just take all the credit and just be amazing, and everyone would think she's amazing and perfect and the key to everything, all the time being an annoying, miserable bint. Welcome to the new Quan character. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, Quan! Because, oh yes, she may be 10, but don't worry, because she is a Type B, she is amazing and the key to everything. So, despite the fact that in the very first scene we see her, she has already managed to rope 3 adults into dressing her, even though they know that she's not actually her, because it's revealed that she's got a body double to be dressed by the 3 other adults who said nothing about the other daughter escaping. So when the princess comes into the room, they're all like, oh yeah, we just did what your daughter told us. Because I always find that the servants are more loyal to the annoying 10-year-old brat than they are their own boss. But don't worry, because they all just avert their eyes as if, oh, you know what she's like, she's so perfect, we cannot possibly resist her talents. And if you think I'm over-egging the pie, you have seen nothing yet. So she's like, she's either in the cellar, the kitchen, or the forest. And you know, forests tend to be quite big. I mean, look at them. The forest is all over the place. It seems to be quite big. More than 5 minutes to search that lot. Not that it does. Because she's just going full yeet through the forest. Climbs the tree because, you know, we've got to smash those stereotypes. We are going to smash that glass ceiling using nothing but talentless, predictable stereotypes. Oh yeah, and they've got a little robot droid to try and sell you as merch. That's absolutely not their attempt at another Baby Yoda, I promise. They wouldn't be that predictable, I'm sure. She's basically spotting ships, making up stories about them, and believe me, it's as boring as it sounds. It's at this point that the princess comes out personally with 2 guards to fetch her from a tree. I'm assuming she always goes to this tree, because if she was meant to have searched the entire forest to find her, that's ridiculous. And if she does go to the same tree to escape her parents every time, she's just even more stupid than I could possibly have imagined. And then she utters the immortal line, "It's like raising a boy!" Just in case you don't realize what we're doing with the stereotypes, we're going to point it out verbally for you, because we think our audience is really thick and stupid. I don't know how I'm going to keep up with the scriptwriter who hasn't had an original thought since Vietnam. But essentially her punishment is she can't mess with the drone, which I think is probably similar to when I was a kid and I had my Tamagotchi taken off me. I still remember it. It crapped itself until it died. It was a traumatic experience for a child. I'm not sure I ever recovered. And then the mother goes, if you behaved as well as you climbed, you'd be a senator already. And considering what we see her do in the rest of the episode, I'm not even sure if she's joking. I could genuinely see them make a 10-year-old a senator in this very show because they have absolutely zero standards. Although I have to say, we do get one line of honesty from the character out of the entire show.
Not like like anyone would miss me if I wasn't there.
No, I'd be celebrating. Well, if you could do that now and shut up, it'd definitely improve the show. I didn't think we'd get another Quan character so early. I didn't think we'd find anyone who could really compete on the same level as Quan. Oh, but she's gonna give it a good go, and we're not even into the half of the episode yet. Oh, but Disney never lets you down, do they? As long as you expect really low standards of quality anyway.
You get out of this what you put into it.
In which case, I can only assume they paid the scriptwriters in manure. Oh yeah, and there was one more thing. She literally just steals back her robot, which was her only punishment from her mother, in front of her, and she just lets her get away with it and she doesn't punish her at all. Because we're Disney, so now we've got to have bad parenting who don't even discipline our children when they misbehave in TV shows to try and teach everyone the bad way to go about things. No wonder this character just acts like an arse. Her mother has zero parenting skills. Then we get the creepy guy show up. It's like, oh, he probably wishes harm upon the daughter. And at this point, I'm like, yeah, go ahead, mate. You can't make it any worse. We're back at the meat processing plant, where at this point, the misery of the workers rivals the misery of the audience. He keeps cutting off meat and then wrapping it up and taking it home, and I don't know whether he's meant to do this or just nicking it. We get really long traveling scenes just to pad out the episode because, you know, green screens are expensive. They've only got millions per episode. You don't expect anything like actual content to be in the show. So he goes back to his horse, and it turns out Luke's guardian has brought back the toy that he creepily left on his doorstep, which, to be honest, I think is fair enough, because he just creepily left it on his doorstep. Now, they have this big conversation about how he needs to understand there's a big galaxy out there and not this planet, which is weird, considering he's meant to be laying low on this planet, so why would he even need to care about the rest of the universe? But then Kenobi's like, we had an agreement. You know, if he's showing, then I must train him. And that doesn't make any sense. Even in this same episode, they've said that actually being a Jedi makes you stand out more and therefore you will be more easily hunted because you've been taught all of these codes and that means you can't hide. And when faced with a Jedi, Kenobi himself said you need to just give up being a Jedi and just act like you're not one. So why he wants to train him into being a Jedi, only for him not to act like one, because acting like one would give him away, and he's not supposed to be given away, which is the entire reason he's on this planet in the first place, doesn't make any sense why he would want to train him in it. Yes, you could say that training him would enable him to defend himself better, but it would also bring down the entire Sith Empire on him, which he can't defend himself from. So why Obi-Wan's tactic for him would be anything but to, you should just stay there and lay low, considering that's what he's been doing and telling everyone else to do, I have no idea. So Obi-Wan's entire thought process for this entire scene makes zero sense. But weirdly, his guardians just like, well, you trained Anakin and he turned to the dark side and got killed, and I don't want you doing it to this guy. I'm not sure why he thinks not training him will save him from that fate either, but, you know. Look, these are just two men in a Disney film. You can't expect them to have a brain between them. But along come Mushroom Head and the strong Type B of power, and they've got the really intelligent plan of getting information about where the Jedi is by just randomly asking people and hoping one of them knows something. Now, the two of them have very different strategies. He wants to focus on rewarding them, their greed, whereas she's obsessed with punishment, and she just seems to be angry all the time. All I'm saying, Disney, is you're not really avoiding the stereotypes, are you? I will say, though, she's a Type B of her word, because she said hands will go first. Because for some reason, this scrawny little person is like, this is the RM, you have no rights here. You do realize they're Sith, right? And so they just immediately cut off her arm. And I have to say, she really had it coming. Every man grows up with the knowledge that if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, you're just going to get floored. Which leads to this kind of innate knowledge of who you should be able to mouth off to and who you shouldn't. She just learned the lesson, which is basically instinctual to men. So the angry Type B of power starts walking around just randomly accusing people of knowing where the Jedi is, because that makes sense. And for absolutely no reason whatsoever, decides to focus on Luke's guardian. And the only reason I can think why she focused on him specifically is because she read the script. And she points at him and goes, you know something. It's not a question. It's an accusation. Ooh, the Force told her. Yeah, I'm sure. It is a handy get-out-of-jail-free card when you do have no talent and work on Star Wars, that you can fill in your plot holes by, ooh, magic. Of course, all of this serves as just yet another reminder that Obi-Wan is a coward and won't jump to save anybody's life. Ever. You know, just in case you were at any point a fan of Obi-Wan Kenobi, now you can live in peace and harmony, knowing that actually there has been some kind of equity delivered to the Union, and as such, his entire character has been destroyed. For justice! So she starts asking him if he has a wife and kids, and he goes, "My family is of no concern to you." So obviously, she decides to threaten his family, which, until he told her about them, she didn't even know he had. Turns out, stupidity doesn't just run in the family, it runs across the entire show. But she says, "Why should I believe you?" He says, "I would never hide a Jedi. I believe the Jedi are vermin, and I kill vermin." And like, to be fair, at this point, I can fully understand why he has that opinion, because so far, they all act like complete morons. Although I still can't understand why she's so obsessed with getting this guy, when the only reason he got away in the first place is because he dropped some fabric in her path. Honestly, I don't know how scary she can be after that. But she starts to pull on the thumb screws, and she's like, you want to protect your family. I like that. Do you think that you could protect them from me? And she's saying this, given the height difference, and the fact that she is a type B, and it doesn't come across as intimidating at all. Just so everyone is aware, if you get into somebody's face, and you're shorter than them, you don't come across as intimidating. You just don't. Not unless you're built massively, and she isn't. I don't care how much rubber armor you're wearing, this looks ridiculous. Oh, but she's magic and has a lightsaber. Yes, but she's not using any of that to intimidate him. She's getting in his face as if her physical presence is intimidating, and it isn't. There are so many better ways she could have played this scene. Like, if she'd force choked him, that would have been using her strengths against someone that's weaker than her, and it would have been intimidating. But trying to use your physical presence doesn't work if the only reason you're anywhere near his same height is because you've got braids which are 6 foot above your face. And I still can't take this guy seriously when he's wearing a mushroom helmet. But at this point, it's like she's completely lost it, and she just starts screaming at everyone and says that if they don't tell her where the Jedi is, she's going to kill that guy and his family. And quite honestly, I don't know why anyone else in the square would care. We have literally zero information that anyone in the square even knows who this guy is, let alone cares about him. So I don't know why they'd be even bothered by the threat. The only person who would be bothered by this threat is Kenobi, but she doesn't know he's there, so this entire threat is meaningless. And for reasons I still don't understand, this guy decides that actually no, we need to stop it now because you're getting too evil and I'm a Sith. So he takes her down a back alley, not like that, and shoves her into the wall and starts telling her she's gone too far. For a Sith? I mean, I don't know if he's read the code recently, but being evil is kind of what they do. And he's like, you are too impulsive. She's a Sith! Giving into your emotions is kind of the entire point. And she's like, I just don't care about this place, it's beneath us. And to which he replies, ah, the Inquisitor was right, you still care about Kenobi. I don't know how those two comments are related in the least. I don't know why we've got this trope recently of characters in TV shows talking past each other where none of the lines actually interact. And this scene just seems to be here to drop us more information about Kenobi. That, oh, he's been dead for 10 years. I'm amazed you're still looking for him. We've been looking for him, but he's definitely dead because we can't find him. And she's like, well, maybe you've been looking in the wrong places. Because the entire Sith Empire can't find Kenobi, but don't worry. Strong type B of power can, because she knows everything and is the key to everything. And the guy's like, be careful, third sister, you go too far. And she turns around, you don't go far enough. Oh, I mean, did you get that line out of a Christmas cracker? I'd love to know. But they decide after threatening a random farmer for absolutely no reason whatsoever, they're going to fly away and achieve absolutely nothing. These villains really know how to party. And Kenobi crawls out of his cowardly hiding place and he just goes, thank you, Owen. I didn't do it for you. And the thing is, no, it seems like you didn't do it for anyone, because if you died, they were going to go for your family next, which they only knew about because you told them. Although you didn't tell them where they were, so how they'd even find that out, I don't even know. And the only thing you could have done to have saved your family is to tell them where Kenobi was. So you didn't do it for them, so you must have done it for him. So none of these lines even make any sense. Who did you do it for? The flying spaghetti monster? I don't even know anymore. I only watched episode 1, so I could review episode 1 first. I don't even know I'm going to get through episode 2. At least there's only 6 of these things. So we're back on the Quan planet, otherwise known as Leia, but let's face it, Leia is Quan. So Leia Quan and her parents are at a party. And her parents are having a conversation about how they want to shut down forced labor, and he's like, I didn't come here to stop that. Yes, because we need to have American politics shoved into literally everything on a show which goes out internationally around the world, and I have to put up with it. I don't care about your heritage of guilt. You're supposed to entertain me. Piss off! But this is just to show us that a father's a good guy because he cares about good things, and the other guy is a bad guy because he cares about money. And that's why I like watching Disney shows. so that their subtle political messaging can keep smashing me in the face over and over again as I'm trying to be entertained. It's a great way to spend a Friday afternoon. So if we go to a table of children, and one thing I always love in a TV show is when you have child actors, because they're almost always, without a fault, absolutely awful at acting. That's why I love them being added into TV shows, because what I want in my TV shows are people that can't act, just being shoved in there as main characters for no reason. This is supposed to be an Obi-Wan show, but don't worry, because this is about Leia. I would have even accepted Luke to have a bigger part, but apparently no, we've just got to have this side storyline in for absolutely no reason whatsoever. So basically, this guy's taking the piss out of her because she thanks droids. And it's like, you're thanking lower life forms. I don't know if you're getting the subtle nuance. Let's add in this analogy to educate the audience. They'll love that. And she just starts doing retorts about how, she doesn't need to be polite when she's talking back to him, if she doesn't need to be polite to inferior creatures, and it's like, And then he just drops a load of information about how she's adopted, and everyone knows she's adopted, and that's why she can't leave the planet. I'm like, hang on. If she's supposed to be hidden from the Sith Empire, why did her parents go around telling everyone that she was adopted? Surely they could have just passed her off as their own kids, hide the mom away for 9 months in a room somewhere. She should be able to handle that, and then come out with a baby. Nobody would have known the difference. But instead, we're just going to announce to the universe. I mean, you can say her father's a good guy as you want. He seems really incredibly thick if this is his plan. So then, we get a psychoanalytic monologue from the 6-year-old, just on him perfectly, and we're supposed to think, she's incredibly intelligent and smart, and you think, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. Children don't talk this way, but apparently Quan does. I'm going to deliver it like this, and all of my words are going to be exactly the same, but I'm going to say them fast enough so it sounds like I'm doing it. Even though there's so many cuts, it's because I had to read the script in front of me, and this is probably why I'm staring in one direction all the time, because I couldn't remember all the words, because I'm actually 5. And this entire monologue is going to be delivered in one monotone thing, and I'm just going to keep staring in this direction, and it's going to be so boring, but it's going to carry on constantly, and I'm going to keep talking like this so you think I'm intelligent, even though I'm not. And this is supposed to be entertainment nowadays, even though I'm supposed to be 5, and I don't know what I'm talking about. She can't act, and she's going to be the main character. She's just this perfect creature of all humanity. Quite frankly, considering we've seen what she turns into as an adult, I don't know what happened along the way. This scene would have been difficult for an adult to pull off that wasn't Sherlock Holmes. But for a child who delivers every line like a block of wood, it's farcical. Not as farcical as what happens later in the episode, though. But first, we have to put up with this. For some reason, they're having a go at her, and I don't know why. She was actually particularly polite to him. He played a verbal jousting game with her and lost. And for some reason, he's like, you're going to have to apologize to him. Why? But regardless of why they're asking her to apologize, she then point-blank refuses, says she's rather get digested by some kind of monster, and walks off. And at that point, you're like, well, okay, now she's disobeyed you, so now you have to punish her for that, and that would be justified because she's disobeyed you, and they just let her get away with it. Because, it's the current year, and that means we don't parent kids anymore. This is a Disney show, you'd assume they'd show some kind of parenting, but apparently, parenting's overrated. And she looks at him as if, I'm completely out of options, I don't know what to do, I asked her to apologize, and she said no, I guess it's out of my hands. I'm like, no. It's like, no. There are other options of discipline than just giving up. This entire speech is multiple minutes of nothing, and quite frankly, you'd be glad I skipped it. It's amazing how long this show can spend saying absolutely nothing related to the plot.
One day you'll grow up to lead this country.
Yes, but why should I care? I don't know if you know, but we've seen the movies, we already know where she ends up. The only surprising thing about it is a Disney show where it's got a dad who isn't an arse, so I suppose that's something. Of course, he leaves saying, I'll wait for you downstairs, and then she immediately just yeets herself out of the building, because for some reason they haven't learned. There comes a point where it's just like, your own fault. So they realize she's gone missing and send off these military people to go looking for her. But I have to say, what happens next in this show is some of the worst television I've ever seen in my life. And if we just limit it to chase scenes, it is the worst chase scene I've ever seen in my life. The most farcical chase scene I've ever seen in my life, because the guy with a phone holder on the back of his head is back. And even though she can clearly see him from a long way off, for some reason, runs right up to him and then is shocked when he's there. It's like you could clearly see him for about the last 20 meters.
I was running with my eyes closed.
Because everyone does that, yeah. So she asks, why is he here? Because even though she's a princess, for some reason doesn't realize that, you know, kidnapping princess carries a bounty. Just like Quan, this character is simultaneously supposed to be incredibly intelligent while constantly acting incredibly stupid. And he says, I'm waiting for you, and then suddenly these two people teleport into existence when they weren't there before, and they never crept up on it. I don't know, they just appear. We can spend 3 minutes on Kenobi leaving work, but having someone walk into frame, that's wasting too much time. But the 3 elite mercenaries clearly form a triangle around her so she can't escape. And then we get this. She just runs off. She just literally just runs off. And they stand there and watch her run off. And then for some reason, can't catch a 5-year-old girl. You think I'm joking? But the stupid thing is these people are running deliberately slowly, and even then, keep catching her up on the footage. That's why we get these cuts, where every time it cuts, the people are further back than they are, and then just before the cut, they caught up to her. Why? Because her legs are about 2 inches tall, and it's physically impossible for an adult not to catch her in about 5 seconds. I don't know what the point of this is, except to show us how amazing she is and perfect at everything, because it's the most farcical chase I've ever seen. It's been about 3 seconds, they're running slowly, and they're almost on her. They could reach her in about 1 second. And despite having to have deliberately stopped halfway because they were getting too close to her, even at that distance, this guy decides to run off to the left for absolutely no reason whatsoever. He's an arm's reach away from her at this point. So then we get the cut, because otherwise they would have caught her. And we cut back and he's about 20 feet behind her again. Either she can teleport, or he stops existing when the camera isn't on him, and she can continue running. Only when the camera comes back does he pop back into existence in the same place as he was before. So the green guy ran left for absolutely no reason whatsoever, and now she's gone right. So he's just run off into the woods and got lost, I'm assuming. There's no reason for it. Once again, he's within an arm's reach of her and would catch her in about a second at this point. Luckily for her, she slid under this tiny little branch, and rather than just hop over the stupidly low branch, he decides to hold on to it and just shake it in rage. Oh, child, you have fooled me. I don't know how I'm going to step over this tiny little twig. He's still there. Oh, I can't believe I've been outwitted. Now, somehow, the green guy appears on her left, even though he ran in the completely opposite direction for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And notice the distance of him is maybe, you know, about 3 seconds to catch up. He's already closed it for 1.5 seconds, so he's maybe 2 arms reaches away from her. Until we cut the camera, and then he's over here, and she's all the way over here. Don't know how she got the extra distance, it's never explained. Luckily though, she runs under this chest-high branch, but the green guy is here, and despite being able to see this branch for what, like 5 meters? He just continues to run and smashes straight into it rather than ducking under it, even though it was clearly perfectly visible. Now somehow, this guy is on her left, even though I'm pretty sure that would put him on the opposite side of the forest to the last time we saw him. This green guy was going to catch up to her, but then had to stop because he realized if he continued to move at that pace, he'd easily catch her. And so he just stands there and slowly lifts his leg over the twig. That's why we had another cut. And the guy had to fall over because there's absolutely no physical way I wouldn't be able to catch this tiny little girl unless I just acted like a complete moron. So then she outsmarts them by jumping through this tree which they can't fit through, despite the fact that they can easily just walk past it. No, they literally stop and look through the tree trunk and think, oh, if I can't fit through it, how on earth am I going to catch her? Despite the fact that there's clearly big, massive gaps on either side of it. And so they run off in a completely different direction. The only thing that's surprising about these mercenaries is if they're this bad at their job, they ever ate in the first place. So she starts running, and we're not done with the cringe yet, because this guy starts running up to her. She runs up to him, and he's easily within arm's reach. He could literally just grab her neck and face smash her into the ground. And at that point, at least the show might get a little bit interesting. But instead, he just stands there and does nothing. Oh, I could easily grab you, but instead, I'm going to wait. And so she turns around and starts running away to the right and runs into this guy. And finally, they put a bag over her head, which is the only good part of that scene, and that's just because it means that it's over. Back to Kenobi, and he's busy in his house brooding, being miserable, and a coward, because that's what Kenobi is. And his little communicator thing starts flashing. Essentially, her parents are contacting him saying they want him to help because someone's kidnapped our daughter and we don't know how. At this point, you'd think he'd ask how on earth did someone kidnap her under all the royal security that she should have been under, but apparently no, we're not even going to think about that. Instead, he just starts refusing her help. I need to look after Luke. I need to look after Luke. I'm sure he'll survive without the 10 minutes of attention you give him after work as you stare at him from a distance. Yeah. Great protection, 24-hour security detail you're providing there, in between your miserable brooding nightmares and getting meat out of the ground. And he says, why don't you send your palace guard? And she's like, well, only you know how important she is. I'm like, hang on, the palace guard would think she was important because she's royalty and they serve royalty? The royal guard don't need a better reason than that to actually treat it as the most important part of their lives, because that's literally their job. So that makes no sense. Only you, Obi-Wan, even know how important she is. She's not important at all, is she? She's Anakin's daughter, big woo. Oh, congratulations, in the future she might hand off a message. That'll be a big loss. Instead, we get this depressing, it's been 10 years. I'm not the man you used to know. Disney have bought me and since decided that because of who I am, as a man, my character must be destroyed, and I must be humiliated and completely deconstructed as a character. I must be humiliated in my own show, and I'm only doing this because I'm getting paid astronomical amounts of money.
I'm not who I used to be.
And that's why the show's awful. People are only watching the show because they wanted to see you as the man you used to be. So he just tells them to get stuffed, and off we go on our merry way. Cut to the mercenaries, and it seems to be captained by Captain Based, because he tells the other guy to shut her up, which is the best thing anyone's ever said about that character. So they put her in a room, tie her in a chair, but for some reason forget to gag her. But if you were worried that at some point you might be entertained during this episode, don't worry, because we're back at Kenobi and his meat-packing plant again. I mean, Obi-Wan may be hiding from the Sith, but the only thing hiding better than Obi-Wan in this show is any entertainment value. I've been searching for it, but since that opening scene, I've not found a single thing. In case you haven't had enough of it, this is Obi-Wan being a miserable coward in a different place, yet again. And then we find out what happened to the original Jedi. I mean, to be fair, he was told to bury the lightsaber and then stop helping people and live a normal life. But it appears like he couldn't resist, because he was actually a good Jedi, unlike Obi-Wan. Although that does mean that Obi-Wan is still alive, so, you know, maybe that Jedi code isn't exactly all it's cracked up to be. Obi-Wan's taking this to mean that, oh, I did a wrong thing because I didn't help him. But he actually taught him to be a coward like him, and he's alive and the other guy's dead, so, you know, maybe these Jedi teachings are wrong after all. I don't really know what Disney are trying to teach us here. Seems to be that doing the right thing gets you killed. Congratulations, Disney, you're really raising the next generation with the right morality. But Obi-Wan comes back home, and his motion detector tells him that somebody's inside. Now, why this thing never told him there was someone inside when Tom Cruise was nicking his air conditioning unit, I don't know, but for some reason it's activated this time. That said, knowing that there's someone inside and it's a trap in his own house, he goes inside anyway. He's like, I'm gonna be sneaky. You don't have any weapons, dude. I don't know what you're after. Turns out it's just the father. Honestly, at this point, I just wish it was Darth Vader. He struck him down and we can end the series here. It'll save me a lot of time and pain, to be honest. This scene is basically him telling Obi-Wan how to find his daughter's ship. Because for the rest of it, Obi-Wan basically goes, I can't save it. And the other guy goes, yes, you can. This is Anakin. Get over it. You couldn't save him, but you can save her. That's as deep as this goes. As far as I'm concerned, this is just a CW emotions in hallways scene of someone going, I believe in you. You can do it. And he's like, yes. That changes my entire outlook on life. Welcome to a trope that I see in everything and universally annoys the crap out of me. She gets a little drone friend to start cutting her free, and he has these little saw blades on him. I have no idea why a little toy has one of those saw blades on him, but, you know, it's useful, I guess. Weirdly, the captain coincidentally chooses this exact moment to come into the room and find out what she's doing. But then we get her saying this.
I'm not afraid of you.
You should be. This is my most hated trope, and it's been in so many things. Witcher, Halo, Wheel of Time. A Type B gets captured, and she's completely under the control of a man, and she's just like, I'm not afraid of you, and starts bossing them around and giving them orders. And it just comes across as universally thick. You don't know who's in charge, you're too thick to understand your surroundings, and you're mouthing off because you think it makes them powerful, when it just makes them come across as stupid people who don't even understand the situation you're in. You are not in charge here. But no, it makes them powerful. Well, he grabs a little toy and smashes it on the ground. The stupid thing is, he then walks out of the room and just leaves it there, and it looks superficially damaged at best. I bet you anything she escapes and somehow manages to repair it, because I bet she's an expert engineer as well. I mean, all I'm saying is if you've got a prisoner, maybe take out the droid that was freeing them from the room. But Obi-Wan, having been convinced by the stunning and incredibly intelligent speech of, "I believe in you," has now decided to completely change his entire life, leave Luke, who he's supposed to be protecting and has pledged to protect for his entire life. He's just like, nah, screw that guy, I'm off. So he goes looking for his lightsaber, and despite there being literally 0 landmarks, knows exactly where it is. So he goes to the exact spot and just starts digging. Meanwhile, the mercenaries have decided to contact their boss. Oh look, he dug exactly around the box perfectly, without even having to search for it, even a millimeter. How coincidental. But it turns out he's got his and Anakin's lightsaber, because we need to get those nostalgic feels going. If we can keep the nostalgia going, maybe people won't even see the big gaping problems with the series. But it turns out their boss is stunning and brave Type B. Somehow she knew that Kenobi had fought with her father, and so she kidnapped the daughter to get Kenobi out because she assumes that the father would consult Kenobi about it. Despite the fact that he's a royal prince and has all of these royal guards, she thinks he'll definitely consult this one guy. I mean, she's right, but that doesn't mean that her logic made any sense.
The Jedi will hunt himself.
That's not as clever as the scriptwriters thought it was. So Kenobi's walking back through town, and honestly, it just looks like a hoodie to me, or a bathrobe. It's weird. Clearly meant to be reminiscent of Jedi robes, but when you're trying to discreetly walk through a village which has recently been hunted by Sith, trying to reminisce about Jedi robes probably isn't the best look to have as you walk around. It's not as stupid as what he does next, though, because he's still not sure whether he wants to go onto the ship or not. So he sits there pausing, umming and ahhing. Oh, I'm not sure whether I should go. I'm so torn. Should I spend my 10 minutes a day watching Luke from afar? Or should I go and save this girl who is literally meaningless to the fate of the universe? I don't know. But in the end, he decides, no, I'm definitely going. And then for some reason drops about 200 IQ as he shows her his pass, and then when he goes to put it away, pulls his cloak back and flashes her his lightsaber. I don't think you really understand that's how to be discreet. The Sith are scouring the universe for the very few Jedi left, and you're just wandering around flashing your lightsaber to every single person nearby. Congratulations. This script was written by 5-year-olds. 5-year-olds! Now, I haven't seen episode 2 yet, but my reaction to the pilot is, what the hell was even that? Disney have treated Obi-Wan exactly the same way they treated Luke. They took a character that people loved, and now they've made him a scared little coward who just hides in the little place. I'm hiding from the Sith and doing nothing! Because for some reason, what, they think that's how men react to problems? Or is that simply how they want men to react to problems? But don't worry, because the strong Type B of power is here to save the day. She's been in interviews saying how she wants women to look up to her as a character, while simultaneously chopping off hands and going around threatening to murder entire families. Wow, Disney, a role model for the future generations. But most pathetic of all in the entire episode was, of course, Leia. This 5-year-old who can outrun grown men who have to stop because if they ran at any kind of normal speed, they would easily catch her, and just start running into branches, which they've clearly been able to see, in the most farcical of chases, is simultaneously an arse to everyone, but they always like her, and she's perfect at everything. She can even mouth off while being kidnapped about, I'm not scared of you, when she's in absolutely no place to be saying that kind of thing. And for some reason, in these situations where it happens, the person who is in the position of power doesn't do anything about it. In fact, the only thing that made sense in this was that her parents never disciplined her for bad behavior at all, and that explains why she's a complete little brat. So congratulations on making Quan 2.0 the most annoying character in the show. And I have a feeling she's going to be one of the main ones. So I hope we're all ready for the enjoyment that will bring us all. But if I had to give my one emotion that I had through most of this show, it was just boredom. Nothing happened for large chunks of it. You could skip minutes at a time where it's just like him leaving work. And I can only assume it was there to fill time. And in an already small episode, what, to save money? There's 6 episodes. You've already got filler episodes and filler scenes in your filler episode. I don't know how you managed it with 6 episodes, but here we are. You spent a lot of money doing nothing. One thing is for sure, is I think this is exactly what everyone expected. And I'm not going to go into the leaks, but it really does look like we're heading in that direction, and so I would not be surprised at all if those are true now. The agenda is in full swing. Disney have got those checkboxes going and they're ticking them off at record speed. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes, because I think it's going to be entirely predictable. You know who the good guys are, you know who the bad guys are, and you can tell that by the checkboxes. Oh, so Disney, I hope you're happy with destroying yet another of the only characters that anyone cares about. I'm sure you take pride and enjoyment in doing it. Yes, we've got one of those things that the fan likes again, and we're replacing something they loved with our own filth. I'm sure it feels great for you. I do wonder what'll happen in a few years when you've done it to all of the characters that people love and you've got nothing left to show for it. And things that you create with your new characters just bombs because people despise them. Going to be very funny as you burn piles and piles of cash, and I can just laugh as it happens. But until then, I've got another 5 episodes of this, and if this is how you start your pilot episode in one of the worst episodes of television I've seen, I have no idea what's going to happen on them. I always think your pilot and your finale should be the best episodes. So if this was your best foot forward, what on earth have we got waiting for us? But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.